Hello and welcome to another episode of the PT Special Revision series. This is episode number 7 and we have covered so many topics. I have hopes that you are revising it time and again because redundancy and forgetting of the recent related topics is very normal. So kindly keep on revising it. So let's talk about the first topic today, that is Global Climate Risk Index. This index is released every year, annual, by German Watch. Okay. Two things in mind, released annually and by German Watch. And of course, it talks about how the increase in extreme weather related phenomenon have occurred due to increase in climate change. And 8 out of 10 countries in the Climate Risk Index of 2021 have shown they are the most affected in the range of year between 2000 to 2019, and they all were poor country. Of course, if we talk about poor countries, they are the least equipped in order to tackle with the occurring changes with respect to climate change. And India has ranked 7th in the index. That means it is the 7th most affected country in the world and its score is 16.67. German Watch is an independent think tank and it is based in Bonn and Berlin. Moving on, large scale loss due to extreme weather related events in India have occurred and 1.8 million people have been displaced. That means they have to or had to migrate within the country because of the extreme weather related phenomenon. So what are extreme weather related events? Weather is the atmosphere or the environment of a region for a short period of time. And when it changes drastically, that is called extreme weather events. Weather events will happen every time and again. If we talk about rain, drought, floods, all these are supposed to happen. But if they are happening very frequently and intensely, then it is known as extreme weather related event. And in 2019, about 11.8 million people were affected due to rainfall above average. Even this year, we saw how urban flooding was so normal because in a very short span of time, we received a lot of rain. And economic loss because of that has also happened. Not only to the public but to the government, because the problems and impacts which caused disastrous impacts on the general public transport and the roads and everything that was built, it has also been impacted because of that. Moving on, let's talk about the new ant species which has been discovered, and discovery of 2 new species of rare ant lineage has been there, and the genus, that means the genetic makeup of these ant species is Osseria. All right, and they have been found in Kerala as well as Tamil Nadu. Note it down. Also, discovery of one of the species from Periyar Tiger Reserve, Kerala has been there and it was named Osseria joshi. It was designated as a tiger reserve in the year 1978. And why is it called the Periyar Tiger Reserve? Because of the river which passes through it, that is Periyar, and the second one is Mulayar. Okay. And it also houses many important species such as Nilgiri tar and lion-tailed macaque. So Nilgiri tar is a very important species found in Periyar Tiger Reserve. Okay, and keep all these facts in mind because it could be asked in prelims. Moving on, now 2 species of the same genus, that means they have the same genetic makeup of ant. This just is called, why, if you will ask, if their genus is same, why are they called 2 species? Because of the change in their antennae segments. That means antennae means 2 follicles that are on the head of the ants, and because of the segments are different, that is why they are being called 2 different ants. And at present there are 14 species of the genus. Okay, and 8 species have 9 antennae segments. That means there are 9 different parts in their antennae, and 5 have antennae that has 11 segments. And in new research, it has been claimed that Australia have 10 antennae segments. So on the basis of that, keep in mind how are they different because of their antennae segments. Moving on, you can look at the pictures. So let's talk about Climate Adaptation Summit. Climate adaptation normally means to adapt to the climate change. And Climate Adaptation Summit 2021, it was hosted in the Netherlands. An objective is to accelerate and innovate efforts to adapt to the effects of climate change. That means whatever impacts are there on the weather that will impact the people further with respect to climate change, people and the entire world should be ready to adapt to it, and we need to accelerate it. Also, innovate efforts. New innovations can take place in order to make us more resilient to climate change. And the Adaptation Action Agenda was also announced at this summit. Which agenda? Adaptation Action Agenda. And the Adaptation Action Agenda, it will serve as an instruction on how to accelerate and boost the process, how to innovate faster, how to make people climate resilient faster. And the goal is to achieve climate resilience by the year 2030. The timeline is also important. Moving on, 10 years global program, 1,000 cities adapt now. This has also been there and emphasized on green and post-COVID recovery. That means COVID has become an era. It is spanning through years and years. So it means that when we talk about post-COVID recovery, the word which will usher into the new era post-COVID, it should be more climate resilient and green in nature. That means our energy should come from those resources which are not able to transmit a lot of greenhouse gases. India's target to achieve 450 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity by 2030 was reiterated. Now, India has already got 96.96 gigawatt of its energy from renewable energy. That is just approximately 25% of its installed capacity, and this data is the most recent data as of July 2021. And if we talk about the 450 gigawatts of energy from renewable sources, 280 gigawatt is going to come from solar energy. Okay? India has abundance of solar energy, that is why. And India, it saves around 38 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions every year. Moving forward, now let's talk about the United Nations Environment Program, which is the leading global environmental authority, and this sets the global environment agenda. It is headquartered at Nairobi, Kenya, and it was established on 5th of June 1972. It brings out certain reports such as global, I'm going to write it down for you. Frontiers is there. Invest into a healthy planet. Global Environment Outlook. So these are the certain reports along with emission gap report that is brought out by the UNEP. Now let's talk about red panda in India. So Zoological Survey of India has unveiled new details about the red panda. And if we talk about red panda, it's a small reddish brown arboreal creature, and it is also the state animal of Sikkim. It is in the endangered category of the IUCN Red List, and in the Wildlife Protection Act, it stays in the Schedule 1. And also, if we talk about the spanning range of red panda, it is found in India, Bhutan, Nepal, India, Bhutan, Nepal, and also the northern ranges of China and Myanmar. Okay, so red panda, Indo-Himalayan and Chinese red panda, they are endemic to India. Which ones? Indo-Himalayan and Chinese. They are endemic means they are found only in India and nowhere else. Until 2020, the red panda was considered a monotypic species. That means until 2020, it was suggested that red panda is the only representative of its species and it cannot be divided into different subspecies. Okay, moving forward. Let's talk about biomedical waste. What is biomedical waste? Biomedical waste are solid or liquid products. Solid, that means like vaccines, like the basically everything solid that is related to the medical category, and it is contaminated. And liquid products released after diagnostic procedures such as blood, urine. So these are liquid products and they have been done or wasted through a diagnostic process in a hospital or even health center. So, National Green Tribunal has sent some directives on biomedical waste. That means how to manage them. So, it said that ensure compliance with biomedical waste management rules. It is important because right now, if we talk about the year 2020 and 2021, a lot of biomedical waste such as PPE kit, such as vaccines, such as cotton, Euro bags, and everything has been generated at a really faster pace because of increased hospitalization as we are going through a world crisis. So it is very important, otherwise more infection and more waste can occur and damage the environment. Biomedical waste management units, they need approval from state pollution control boards. Note it down. And biomedical waste management rules talk about provision for collection, that means how to collect them. Segregation. Segregation means to put them into different categories, liquid, solid, semi-solid, sludge. And processing, that means which ones can be recycled or disposed of and which ones cannot be. Treatment and final disposal, that means if they are not going to be recycled or reused or disposed in any form or in a better form, they will be thrown away. And how to do it, it is given in biomedical waste management rules. And if we talk about NGT, NGT is a quasi-judicial statutory body which was established by the National Green Tribunal Act of 2010 and it is headquartered in New Delhi. Also, if we talk about the, keep this in mind, I am going to tell you, there are two acts which are out of the or excluded from the purview of NGT. First is Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 and Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Dwellers Act of 2006. These two are not into the ambit or under the aegis of National Green Tribunal Act. Moving forward, let's talk about world's declining insect population. Now, worldwide insect populations are declining at an alarming rate, and especially causes, if we talk about, of course, climate change, that means they are unable to adapt to the climate. Pesticides and herbicides, also light pollution. Pesticides and herbicides are actually a danger to their biological makeup, and if they consume it, they are not going to survive. Light pollution, in the sense, too much of street light, too much of night light causes their biological clock to be disrupted, and that is why it is causing a harm to them. Invasive species, that means introduction of those species which are not native to a place, and once those species are introduced, the native species their development becomes hampered. And changes in agriculture and land use, this is also a reason. So examples are bee and monarch butterflies. If I want to show you monarch butterflies, this is the monarch butterfly. And significance is importance of bees and monarch butterflies because bees are a very important agent for pollination in the agricultural sector and they help in worldwide food supply. Also, they help in butterflies and bees, they help in the reproduction of flowers through pollination. What is the definition of pollination? Pollination means the transfer of pollen grains from stamen, that is the male part of the plant, to pistil, that is the female part of the plant. And after this, fertilization and seed production takes place, so it is going to hamper this also. Moving forward, let's talk about Iceberg A68A. Iceberg A68A. Then it was moving towards South Georgia. And there is a risk of adverse effects on the wildlife on the island because if it collapses there, if it collides there, of course it will create a harmful impact there. And the iceberg broke away from the Larsen C ice shelf of Antarctic in the year 2017. So if we talk about this diagram, it is going to show you where Larsen C ice shelf is. So ice shelf are basically extensions of the land ice, and it controls the production, it controls the amount of water in itself. So it's very important that this doesn't melt, because if huge ice shelves will break and start melting, it will wreak a havoc for the entire sea level. It will, especially if I talk about Larsen Sea, if it breaks away and starts to melt, it will create a level rise. There will be a level rise of 10 centimeter according to researchers, and it is the fourth largest ice shelf here. So let's talk about the iceberg. And iceberg ice shelf, I told you, it's an extension of the land ice. It's still attached to the lands, while icebergs have broken away from the land ice and they are just floating around. 90% of the iceberg is submerged underwater, while the rest of the 10% is visible. Okay, so that is why we say tip of the iceberg. And as it progressed, the iceberg, the smaller icebergs have separated, and of course, after which the larger one was known as 𝐸𝐾𝐒, as you can see here. Okay, this is the iceberg, and it is so large, it is being said that it is as large as the Delaware state of the US. Moving on, so this iceberg is causing a problem by local endemic wildlife. Why? Because it is put in danger and they might become extinct. Penguins and seals, they also may have to travel far in search of food. And according to British Antarctic Survey, glaciers fragments is a natural phenomenon. It has nothing to do with climate change. Okay, one thing that we need to keep in mind is here that climate change is set to happen, because this is possibly the sixth mass extinction. Climate change at an accelerated rate, that is the problem. So climate, if it is changing at an aggravated rate because of the anthropogenic activities, these instances will occur more frequently, and that is the problem. We cannot and we shouldn't actually prohibit this, but we should make sure that climate change doesn't occur at this rate and even at a faster rate, because we can't adapt at that rate. Moving on, let's talk about tiger radio collars. So tiger radio collars basically are what? This tiger has been radio collared. That means it is wearing a collar which is going to transmit radio waves and send information about the whereabouts of the animal. And this tiger radio collar, this has occurred in Sundarbans Tiger Reserve. Sundarban Tiger Reserve. Now, Sundarbans are the largest mangrove in the world, and tigers are considered as keystone species. So, keystone species basically means those species which are very important for the structural working of an ecosystem. That means they are there to balance the ecosystem. And if they are taken out of the ecosystem, problems will occur because the entire structure will collapse. So that is known as a keystone species. And what is an indicator species? We also have indicator species. What is an indicator species? Indicator species are those species which tell us about the health of the ecosystem, the environment of the ecosystem, such as corals. If there will be a change in the light, nutrient, temperature of a region, of course, the corals will tell us about the health. If bleaching will occur, we will come to know that there is something wrong in the light, temperature may have risen or it has gone down. So those are indicator species. And tigers are endangered in the IUCN Red List. They are under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act and CITES Appendix 1. And of course, if we talk about tigers, 70% of the tigers of the world are in India, and the state with the highest number of tigers are Madhya Pradesh, after that Karnataka, and then we have Uttarakhand. Okay, moving on, let's talk about Sundarbans. Now, Sundarbans is the world's only mangrove forest, as I told you, housing tigers, and it was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1987. It is also a biosphere reserve since the year 2001 and a Ramsar site. Ramsar, that means wetland of special significance in India since the year 2019. Okay, moving forward, IMD Meteorological Center in Leh. So IMD has launched the country's highest meteorological center in Leh. IMD, Indian Meteorological Department, in operation since the year 1875. That means it is a pre-independence body. And also, if we talk about its importance, it is sending us information about weather-related events and also seismology, right? Earthquakes. So what is the seismicity? What is the weather-related phenomena? Everything is deposited by the IMD. And also it comes under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. It will provide specialized weather forecasts for traffic movement of highways in Leh and agriculture and defense personnel also. This is the second meteorological center in the Himalayas after Meteorological Center of Arunachal Pradesh. Moving on, the region is divided into different microclimatic zones such as plains, cold desert, hill and extremely dry places. Alright, so I hope you covered everything with me. If you want to know more and if you want I can improve, we can improve for you, kindly comment in the comment segment. That's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.